Hey, everybody. It's the NFL Super Bowl preview and conference championship recap with Aaron Schatz and Mike Tanier. Welcome to the Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast, brought to you by FTN Fantasy. I am Aaron Schatz. You find me at ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. He is Mike Tanier. You find him at themessenger.com. And we're ready for Super Bowl 58. We're going to talk about yesterday's conference championship games. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl matchup. I don't know if you saw this morning, Mike, but I saw a tweet that made me really think. Did you know that this whole Super Bowl is apparently an FBI operation?
I thought that the FBI operation had to be canceled because the logos, the colors of the logos got sniffed out.
So it turns out that they arranged to have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, according to this tweet, so that Taylor Swift can come out at halftime.
Come out at halftime?
With Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce going to come out of the locker room.
Okay.
And endorse Biden. And I realized when I read this tweet, if this is all part of an op, then Usher has to be part of it, right?
I would guess.
Because he has to be in on it.
You shouldn't read Jackson Mahomes' tweets, man.
And if Usher is in on it, then Lil Jon is definitely in on it because they're definitely going to perform Yeah. And he's definitely going to bring out Lil Jon to perform Yeah.
Okay.
And if Lil Jon is in on it, Lil Jon did Shots with LMFAO. And that's like my theme song, which means I'm in on it.
Oh, my God.
I'm part of the op. Now I realize why I'm going to Las Vegas next week. I'm part of the op, which is tough because I don't know what you wear to that.
What do you wear to an FBI op? That is a good question.
I don't know what you wear to that.
I don't know what you wear to an FBI op.
Lil Jon's going to come out and everybody's going to get all crunk and have the purple drink, and then we're all going to vote for Biden, and it's a big FBI operation.
Yeah, I do like the idea that, if Taylor Swift endorses Joe Biden and it's not at the Super Bowl, no one's going to find out about it.
Yeah. It's not like anyone pays attention to anything she does ever.
Right. Again, you shouldn't be reading Jackson Mahomes' tweets here.
So the question is, what is this the FBI? Is that who was whispering in Todd Monken's ear and telling him not to run the ball? So Chiefs 17, Ravens 10. Chiefs had a 95% post-game win expectancy, 75% DVOA for the game because, of course, huge opponent adjustments because the Ravens were so good all year. I couldn't figure out the Ravens' strategy. It felt like everything was about going deep without the runs. Mike Roosh points out the Ravens were beaten by their biggest rival, the Baltimore Ravens. But when Flowers gets a taunting penalty and linemen are clotheslining the quarterback, how does this team improve?
It's different. It was a different blundery Ravens loss, though. Usually the blundery Ravens losses, it's 4th and inches, and they try to do something complicated, and
they drop a lot of passes.
I mean, the penalty thing is like the 2011 storyline. At some point, everyone changes.
The penalties were tough. There were definitely some stupid penalties. Things got chippy, but for me, the biggest issue was why they weren't running the ball. Gus Edwards had 3 carries. Remember that stat from before the game about how much success Baltimore had in power concepts, and then the Chiefs were poor in power concepts? Where were they? Why? I realized they didn't have a lot of plays in the first half.
Right.
But then in the second half, when it was clear their defense was controlling Mahomes, and their defense played extremely well in the second half, they still didn't bring out the run, even though they were only losing by 10. Against the Chiefs' defense, which was bad against the run this year, I don't understand the strategy.
It's like they abandoned it at the first drop of the hat. Early in the game, Edwards rips off a 15-yard run. So it's like, okay, this is in play. We can do this. At no point does the game get out of hand where you can abandon it, where you have to abandon it. And it was 3 rushes for Edwards. It was 3 for Justice Hill, which I think were like mostly short yardage.
Yeah, he had like 3 for 3, and then Edwards had 3 for 20.
Right. And it's inexplicable because you're right. It looked like Ken Dorsey hero ball. So many times Jackson firing the ball downfield. And it's like, not only are you doing this, but the quick game that had been working pretty well against the Texans, that gets that goes away.
Right. Andrews played and Likely played. And I think there were only a couple of passes to Andrews and Likely for most of the game. Like It was really strange. Alex Campbell says they were playing scared of Mahomes from the kickoff.
Maybe. They shouldn't have. No,
they shouldn't have, because their defense controlled Mahomes in the second half.
Right. And, it was, what was it? Was it 14-0 and then 14-7, or was it 7-7, 14-7?
I think it was 14-0 and then 14-7.
Right. This was a sequential game. This was not a game that was ever felt like, boy, we can't do anything here, And again, what Mahomes' like success boiled down to, he was able to connect with Kelsey. They were able.
It was 7-7, and then it was 14-7 on a Pacheco run, and then it was 17-7 on the field goal right before halftime. And then the only scoring in the second half was one Tucker field goal.
Right. And so there was never a point where they had to say, look, this isn't working. We have to scrap this. We have to play catch up. It's weird that they chose that route.
We also have to acknowledge turnovers are a big deal.
Oh, gosh.
And the Ravens had 3 of them.
Yes.
And the Chiefs had none. And there was an awful decision by Jackson to throw into triple coverage, trying to find Likely.
Yes.
But the real problem was, and the sack fumble was terrible, but the real problem was that Zay Flowers fumble on the 1-yard line.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, I'm hearing all this. Well, it was the penalties. Most of the Ravens penalties were late. And the Chiefs gave up points because of penalties, because they had a touchdown nullified by
if his shin is down before that ball comes out, they're on the 1-yard line. It's very likely they score. It's then 17-14. It's a very different fourth quarter.
And then we're probably not looking at Jackson trying to force a ball downfield into triple coverage at the end, because they could play more sequentially there. Yeah, and the strip sack fumble was a little bit of the residue of, we're letting them blitz at will. We're letting them rush the passer well, because you're not running power, you're not running some kind of draws, delays, any of the things that you would do to slow them down. So Jackson winds up holding the ball too long, getting a strip sack.
Bill Houston asks, have you arrived at a conclusion whether Mahomes has become his own adjustment in DVOA? So this is the interesting question that we have to ask about the Chiefs, right? Is this playoff LeBron?
Right.
Is this that they don't care that much? This is a team that on Christmas lost to the Raiders.
Right.
Meaningful for them, 3-5 in their last 8 games. And I don't buy the idea that they didn't care against the Raiders.
No.
That game didn't matter to them, that they knew they would make because at that point we were talking about the possibility that they might not win the division.
And also that they could be forced to say, go on the road to Buffalo and Baltimore, which would, not have been a optimal outcome.
Right. So I think they were trying during the regular season. Now, here's the thing about the idea of the Mahomes magic. Mahomes wasn't magic in the second half. The Ravens defense, which is a great defense, was great against him in the second half, not in the first half, but in the second half. So when I look at the playoffs, I feel like this is not necessarily Mahomes is inevitable. Mahomes had 1.5 great games out of 3.
Right. Now, if you're saying that the combination of Mahomes and Kelsey with what Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo brings to the table creates this X factor.
Do you feel that it's like Steve Spagnuolo is something special in the playoffs? And if so, why is it? Because he has more time to game plan in the playoffs? Because he doesn't have any more time to game plan the AFC Championship game than he's only had a week to game plan each game. So why would Spagnuolo be special in the playoffs?
Man has a pretty good Super Bowl track record, as we.
He does, but my question is why? He does.
Yes.
But what's the reason? What's the explanation? Why would he be a better game planner in the playoffs than in the regular season?
I don't necessarily think he is. I think he's generally consistently a good game planner. In this case, the Ravens fell into his lap, played right into his hands, which was bad coaching on their part. If we're going to go back to the 17 and Doe Super Bowl, it's like, well, you've got Osi Umenyiora and Matthias Kiwanuka and all these other guys and Tuck running at all different angles, and he catches Belichick off guard. This year, the Eagles scored 31 on him in the Super Bowl, so that was like this phenomenal game plan by Spags.
Yeah, so that was Mahomes. So that was Mahomes' magic. So it's like trying to figure out what it's a lot of this is trying to figure out, like, who are the Chiefs? Are they the team from the regular season, or do they become different in the playoffs? And if they become different in the playoffs, why? Because with basketball, it's easier to understand because there's load management.
Right.
In basketball, they sit guys on the second night of a back-to-back.
Exactly. So
or they play fewer minutes.
It's Christmas, some road game, and they're playing fewer minutes, and they don't care. They honestly don't care.
Kelsey is playing a couple more snaps per game than he did during the regular season.
Right.
But there's no load management with Mahomes.
No.
Mahomes is the quarterback. During the regular season, when they were losing to the Raiders, there's no load management. Mahomes is the quarterback.
There's no load management for Chris Jones. It's not like you bench linemen except for the Week 18 game. There's nothing like that. And so, yeah, I don't know. I like my comparison isn't so much that it's playoff ambassador. It's that you have to think of Mahomes and Kelsey as Jordan and Pippen, especially based on what you see yesterday, where Kelsey is again and again making whatever Mahomes magic exists because Kelsey's catching a ball like this on 4th and 2, and he's backwards into the end zone catching one like this, and it's 3rd and 5, and he's diving for like a Mahomes ejection ball. And there's something about the mesh between the two of them that does elevate beyond what normal.
Right. The difference is that Scottie Pippen and Jordan did things like win 72 games during the regular season.
That's right, but this team wins lots of regular season games. This year was the aberration.
Right, this year was the aberration. So so that's the question about this. Is this year the aberration now? Will they go? And based on the regular season, the 49ers should win the Super Bowl. But
yeah, I would. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would bank on Kelsey. The Mahomes Kelsey magic before I counted on Purdy clutch ability.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the 49ers. 34-31 over the Lions. The 49ers had a post-game win expectancy of 59%.
Yeah.
The Lions end up with a slightly higher DVOA because of the opponent adjustments. If you don't include opponent adjustments, the 49ers did outplay them 17% to 5%. Which, they won the game, so you'd figure that they do.
Yeah.
All right, so there's two poisonous discourses here that we have to at least address. Okay, the first is...
You mean besides the FBI spec ops?
Besides the FBI spec op, Brock Purdy, it feels like nobody is comfortable just saying that he's very good.
Nope. Can't say that.
It has to be either that... In fact, I don't know how many people are still saying that he sucks. I feel like a lot of people are saying that he's very good, but the people who believe that he's like the top quarterback in the league at this point are like kind of straw manning these people who say that Purdy sucks.
Yeah. Oh no, it's become a political debate at this point. It honestly has. And I don't know. I mean, I'll see like some of our colleagues talk about how lucky Purdy is, and I joke about that in the Mester. Yeah, there's been dropped interceptions, and an interception that bounces off a guy's hands into a.
I mean, that was insane. That was crazy.
That's insane. And you sort of have to address those things, but you don't have to also dwell on them and say, well, because of that negates everything Brock Purdy does. I don't know if people are actually doing that, but that's where I tweet so much. I thread so much about Brock Purdy. And I do it on purpose now, more or less to whatever I say, someone's going to try and find the thing I'm saying that is hater or booster or whatever I am, because that's just sort of the nature of this. It's hysterical. It's weird, but.
Coral Skipper says the Irrational Argument channel on the DVOA Diaspora Discord might as well be called the Brock Purdy discussion channel.
And I'll bet you Brian does not poke his head in there at all.
It's wild, I'm sure, this morning. Yeah.
Oh my God. Let me. There we had a couple of times where we had to do a little tiny bit of moderation over the last week or two. Oh yeah. God, yeah, it's happening. I'm not going to read this.
I think Purdy is. It's interesting because he is so mobile. He had the 3 scrambles for 52 yards, and Alex Campbell says Purdy knew when to take off out of the pocket yesterday, and Lamar did not. And if I had to pick between the two, I am taking Purdy.
Lamar was trying to look downfield and get those balls.
He really was. He was trying to be a pocket passer and did not. He maybe should have scrambled a little bit more than he did. Maybe. But I feel like the bigger issue with Lamar was they needed to do more designed runs with him.
Yes. And I agree.
But it's different. It's definitely like the biggest difference between Purdy and Garoppolo is Purdy's ability to scramble and keep things alive. And sometimes he then tries a pass that's impossible and throws a pick or a near interception. But sometimes then he takes off for 21 yards and gets a first down.
Right. He's more of a high risk reward guy.
Yes.
In many ways.
Which is why he's not a game manager, because game managers are not high risk reward.
High risk reward guys. I think he has game manager elements to him. Again, I use that term as a compliment to talk about the decision making. He is a bigger risk taker than Garoppolo or your traditional, I don't know, Nick Mullins or whatever goofy name you would put in there at that point. But yeah, you're a high risk reward guy on a team that's going to emphasize all your risks, emphasize all your rewards and mitigate a lot of your risks. And this is what it looks like.
All right. The other discourse we're going to be forced to talk about is the fourth downs. And I thought it was interesting that when they talked to Campbell after the game, he didn't talk about analytics at all.
Right.
He explained his decisions to go for fourth downs in the same way coaches usually explain their decisions to not.
Okay.
Right? He talked about feeling the vibe of his team, and this just felt like it was the right move given where my team was at the time. And like, that's the usual explanation that coaches give for why they're not aggressive. And yet nobody accepted that either. Right. Like
the first time, 4th and 2 up several points, drove down.
Well, the first time was right before halftime where he kicked the field goal.
Okay. Well, okay.
And I thought that was wise because you don't get the advantage of pinning the other team on the goal line if you go for fourth right before halftime. So I thought that was a good field goal.
Right.
Then you have the 4th and 2 on the San Francisco 28, 7:03 left, quarter 3.
You're driving down the field. You're milking clock. You seem to be in control of this game very much so. I like going for it. I probably would have run the ball because you're running the ball on 3rd and 12 and getting first downs. I might have done that. But I respect that decision. If you say, based on the vibe of my team, that's why I went for it, I 100% believe it, because the Lions at that point look like they're going to run the ball down their throats and do what they want and dictate at will. That makes sense. Let's talk about the next one.
The tough part, okay, so the next one is 4th and 3 on the San Francisco 30 with 7:32 left in the fourth quarter, down 3. So in this case, the field goal would tie it. The thing that's tough for me about fourth down discourse is that the people who are against fourth down going for it do seem to act like all field goals are guaranteed. Okay. And that's not, Badgley does not have a good record from high 40s.
His record on 40 to 40,
like 77% or something.
Yeah, 37 of 48 for his career.
I feel like the people who believe in going for it on fourth down acknowledge that it's not always going to succeed.
Right.
But the people who believe in kick field goals do not acknowledge that it's not always going to succeed. And Moody had missed a 48-yard field goal earlier in the game.
Well, Moody's Moody. And Badgley, I think, is better than Moody, although he ain't Justin Tucker, I realize that. It's a 47-yarder in the modern NFL. And I acknowledge.
But on the other hand, there's a difference between 4th and 1 and 4th and 3.
Yes, where you don't have the run threat more or less at all. Although, again, you're running the ball for first downs on 3rd and 12 in this game, but you go empty, etc. And the plays leading up to this. Now, remember, in the previous time, the Lions were marching down the field. They're in control. Now they're trailing. The plays before this, Jameson Williams catches a ball behind him where it bobbles in and out of his hands and sort of Purdy's off of a defender and back into his hands. They get that play. They do get a successful running play. And then the flea flicker where Jameson Williams, olays the ball, I think it was a catchable ball. Gibbs gets overthrown by Goff in the flat. The throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown in the flat is sets up the 4th and 3. It's fine. You're not executing. You did not execute on the earlier drive. You got to tell me that the vibe of that offense right now, with Goff overthrowing guys, Jameson Williams bobbling balls and all, that the vibe of that offense is, we're gonna do this. I don't believe that's the vibe.
I will also point out the first one, the 4th and 2, the ball went through Reynolds' hands.
Yes.
They had a play that worked, and Goff executed it correctly, and the ball went through Reynolds' hands. The other thing I'm going to point out is that I think this fourth down discourse also reflects the belief of a lot of people that the point of football is to go to overtime.
Yeah.
Because there seems to be this belief that if just the Lions, if that last touchdown could have tied it, that not only would it have been impossible for the 49ers to come back with a field goal drive to win the game, but that the Lions would have won in overtime. And in fact, no, the Lions would have been the underdog in overtime.
Correct.
So,
At the same time, at the point where you tie that game, it looks like the 49ers get the ball back. Now, you did get a stop of the 49ers that they had to settle for a field goal on the previous drive. You're going to get the ball back one more time. Okay, so you're risking the 49ers going downfield and scoring a touchdown. They had not really driven down the field for a touchdown much in that game. You know, they got a touchdown on a short field. They got a touchdown on the ball bouncing off the guy's head to Ayuk. Okay, so I don't think at that point in the game we're at this probability level where it's like, oh, we're going to go to overtime and win. There's a lot of scenarios where you're going to get this game back under control at a point where you're trailing in the fourth quarter.
Alex Campbell asks, what did analytics say about win probability on both of the second half fourth down decisions? Well, the different models differ, but they both say to go for it.
Okay.
ESPN's model has the first one as a go of 0.2%, which is basically a wash.
Yeah.
And the second one, 0.3%, which is also basically a wash.
Right.
Baldwin's model has the first one as 2.2%, which is more of a go. And the second one is 2.0%, which is more of a go.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting discussion about whether or not he made the right decision.
Right.
I just don't like the idea that the field goals were guaranteed.
I don't like the idea that that this is some indefensible decision, what he did, that this is foolishness, that there are a lot of people climbing way up to the top of Dan Campbell did something stupid. It's like
forgetting that both the Chiefs and the Ravens went for fourth downs in the first game and scored touchdowns on those drives.
Right. Like he made a judgment call. I think, especially on the second one, he erred on the side of over aggressive in a situation he didn't have to, but it's completely defensible. It's completely within the tactical options of any coach in those situations to make those choices. So we can second guess. You're kidding yourself if you're thinking it's absolutely one choice or absolutely the other.
And also, the big play here was the same as the big play in the first game. It was a fumble.
Yes.
It was that Jahmyr Gibbs fumbled and put the 49ers right into scoring range.
Exactly.
Right when the 49ers had figured out their offense.
Yes. Nope, that's it. Gibbs fumbles, a rookie fumbling in a big game. What can you do? Both situations. Good rookie, but a rookie.
So I feel bad for Detroit.
Yeah.
EJ McGlynn says going for it is a bit of a motivational tool for the Lions, which is, I think, something that the analytics people have always argued, which is, doesn't it show faith in your offense to be like, go kick some ass, baby, go do it.
Yeah, it can. It can also show faith in your defense to go the other way. But I look at this also against the backdrop of Dan Campbell against the Lions. After the trick play gets called back by this guy didn't announce, that guy didn't announce. And
against the Cowboys, you mean.
Against the Cowboys, Lions against the Cowboys. And they move it back, and he keeps going for two over and over again.
Yeah.
And we've gone past, going for two the first time, it's aggressive, fine. We move it back. It's time to kick the extra point. No, we're going to go for it again. There's another penalty. We're going to go for it again. At some point, fate's telling you, you know what? Do this the other way. And, he wasn't hearing it. That felt a little bit – that's the backdrop at which I look at yesterday's decisions.
Yeah. So here we are, 49ers and Chiefs, same Super Bowl as 4 years ago in Miami. Yeah. Now we're going to Vegas, same Super Bowl, new players on each team. My first feeling was Chiefs. And the reason why is less the Mahomes magic and more that the 49ers defense has faltered a little bit in the last few weeks, whereas the Chiefs defense feels like it's been playing better. But actually, part of the Chiefs defense playing better is week 18. And part of the 49ers defense playing worse is week 18. And if you take out Easton Stick and you take out
take out the North Dakota State quarterbacks, man.
Carson Wentz, right. Yeah. It's actually not – the 49ers defense has actually not really declined very much, and the Chiefs defense hasn't really improved that much, and both defenses are about equal. So then you get to the question of Mahomes and Kelsey on one side and all those 49ers playmakers. I mean, I think the running backs are both going to feast.
Yeah.
These run defenses are bad.
Yeah.
both run defenses are bad. Like this, there should be a lot of McCaffrey and a lot of Pacheco.
Yeah, when I was analyzing the 49ers and I would see their run statistics, I would say, this is probably a lot of, they're allowing stuff to happen because they're in control of these games. And, taking a better look at the mismatch against, especially the Lions offensive line, which is probably the best in football. Like, oh my God, you can run against them. And the Chiefs can run against opponents when they choose to. Their offensive line is very powerful. Pacheco breaks a lot of tackles. That's a possibility there.
So, I mean, I feel like if they're both going to run and Bill Houston says, I would think the Chiefs' DVOA schlocking of the 49ers from a year ago would be a reference point for this Super Bowl. A year ago, I guess Kansas City.
I'm missing the reference.
I'm terrible at remembering specific games.
Right.
So I'm looking back now. 44-23 in San Francisco. 44-23, Kansas City won last year.
Okay. Who was the quarterback in that game? Jimmy Garoppolo?
That was a Garoppolo game.
Purdy comes in late in that game.
Purdy came in late in that game, but that was not when Purdy replaced Garoppolo. That was Purdy came in, I think, because the game was over.
Yes, after Garoppolo got sacked in the end zone by Frank Clark for a safety to make it 37-23. I don't know. I have a hard time. On the one hand, it makes more sense to go back to that game than it is to make sense to go back to 4 years ago when one team does not have Christian McCaffrey or Brandon Ayuk and the other team has Tyreek Hill.
This is also before Christian McCaffrey. Yes, this game last year.
Oh, McCaffrey's there.
Was McCaffrey was there, or was that before the trade?
8 catches for 38 yards. Jeff Wilson, 754.
Was that the?
That might have been his debut.
When was the
compelling podcasting as we try to figure stuff out in real time?
Yeah, I was going to say when was the the trade was last year, right?
That was Christian McCaffrey's debut a couple of days early.
That was Christian McCaffrey's debut with the 49ers.
It was. So he might not have been fully armed and operational, certainly, since he was just handed the playbook.
So, I mean, if you go with DVOA, especially the total rather than weighted, it's got to be the 49ers have to be your pick.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's closer than that. The line has moved from 2.5 to -1 already.
I know. That's odd. But the 2.5 was like a provisional line in the first place.
I mean, listen, for my life, I would love for the 49ers to win this and make my numbers look good after the Ravens made them look bad. But I do feel like it's a good matchup for the Chiefs. Although if they pressure Purdy has great numbers under pressure.
Yes.
Right? So the defense is going to come at Purdy with blitzes and stuff, and he's got good numbers. Against that.
They're a team with a lot of and he's showed he can move and improvise, and they're a team with solutions against the blitz. When you have that many short passing concepts, you have solutions against the blitz.
But I guess it still comes down to me too. If both running games have success, one team has Mahomes. Both defenses are very good.
Yeah. Well,
it kind of just comes down to Mahomes, I guess.
I guess I've graduated from I'm not sure if Purdy is good enough to I'm not sure the Niners are good enough based on the last couple of weeks when their defense has been a little weaker when their offensive line has been a little weak.
Chase Young is not playing well.
Chase Young is not that guy. Chase Young looked like he was going to be that guy, but he's not that guy. He's not the guy we thought we saw, or the guy we saw maybe in his rookie season.
Or people would call him.
He's not him. He's not him.
He's not him.
But of course, if he's going out there for 15, 20 snaps a game, he doesn't have to be him. He can just go out there and every once in a while make a splash. Didn't do much of that yesterday. He was getting run on pretty hard.
But it does feel like it's going to be like this is a close matchup. I don't really see a blowout. I mean, you never really see a blowout coming, I guess. But
yeah, I had my heart set for because we're both going out to Vegas on being able to do stories about Amon-Ra St. Brown and Frank Ragnow and Sam Laporta. I was really looking forward to some new names and new faces, and it's like, Mahomes again, Kittle again, Debo again. I guess
Yeah.
McCaffrey's new, and we're all going to attack McCaffrey because we haven't seen him in a Super Bowl.
Ayuk was not on the team for
Yeah.
the last Super Bowl. Purdy was not obviously on the team.
Yeah.
for the
Well,
last
Purdy,
Super
I mean, you're
Bowl.
not going to get I'm not going to get 15 minutes sitting down with Brock Purdy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Even the Chiefs defensive backs are probably more popular than they were last year when we spent a lot of time talking to the Chiefs defensive backs.
Right. And of course, I don't want to talk to their receivers.
Hey, so you suck, and because you're not Rashee Rice, and Mahomes doesn't ever want to look at you. Although, look, hey, Marquez Valdez-Scantling iced the game, right? 32 yards falling backwards.
Yes. Yeah, big play in that game. Big plays earlier in the other games to get them there. So he's somebody you can talk to without it feeling weird. I'm guessing they're going to embargo Kadarius Toney and not let him anywhere near media night because he's been a bit of a loose cannon lately.
Yes.
Poor lad.
Yeah. All right. We don't know when our next show is. We are not doing this Thursday.
No.
The plan is to do 2 shows from Vegas, but we don't yet know when they're going to be because we will have just arrived on Monday morning.
Correct.
So unless there's a lot of other like coaching news to discuss, I don't think we're going to want to do right on Monday morning. So you're going to have to watch our threads and Twitter handles for announcements as to when the next Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast can be. You can be sure there will be one the Thursday before the Super Bowl. That is definite. Yes. But whether we're doing one early next week and which day it is, I am not yet sure.
We're olds, and making sure we have like good internet access and things takes us a day or two.
Yes.
So that kind of case matters.
Right. And hiding in our hotel rooms so that we don't have to bug everybody in the media center.
I don't want to do that. I want to be by a pool. If I'm not doing it by a pool, I'm not doing it.
So anyway, we don't know when we'll be on next, but just keep monitoring all of our streams to find out when we are on next. In the meantime, thank you all for watching and listening to the podcast. Don't forget, as always, to tell your friends about our podcast and to like and rate the show and get it in the Discord. Yes, we will announce in the Discord when the next show is. And there will definitely be a show a week from Thursday. That one is definite. That's going to be the big Super Bowl preview show. So until then, I am Aaron Schatz. He is Mike Tanier. Thank you so much for listening to the FTN Fantasy Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.